The morning sun rose over New Haven like it had done for 50 years. Lisa Martinez stood on her office balcony and watched the golden light spread across the valley below. The colony looked beautiful in the early light. Houses sat along neat. Streets, gardens bloomed with earth flowers mixed with native plants that glowed soft blue in the dawn. Lisa was the governor of New Haven. She had helped build this place from nothing. When the first ships arrived, there was only empty land and strange purple grass. Now there were schools and hospitals and farms. 2 million people called this world home. Dr. Paul Bennett walked into her office carrying 2 cups of coffee. He was an old friend who had come on the same ship as Lisa 50 years ago. His hair was gray now, but his eyes still sparkled when he talked about the colony. "Another beautiful day," Paul said, handing her a cup. "The morning reports look good. No problems in the medical centers. The new babies are all healthy." Lisa smiled. "How many this week?" 43. The population keeps growing. Soon we will need to build another school." They stood together looking out at their world. In the distance, mining machines worked the hills. The mines produced rare metals that Earth needed for space travel. Ships came every few months to take the metals away and bring supplies from home. Jake Morrison jogged up the path to the government building. He was the head of colony security. Every morning he ran through the streets to check on things. The people waved at him as he passed. Crime was almost unknown on New Haven. People worked together and helped each other. Jake entered the office still breathing hard from his run. "Good morning, Governor. Doctor, everything looks quiet today." Kids are walking to school. The farmers are heading to their fields. "Just another normal day," Lisa nodded. "That's what I like to hear. Any word from the patrol ships?" Captain Davis took his squadron out to check the outer system. "They should be back this afternoon. Nothing to worry about." Frank Davis commanded. The 12 defense ships that protected New Haven. They were small vessels, but they had never needed to fight anyone. Space was vast and peaceful. The colony had no enemies. Amy Stewart worked in the communications center in the basement of the government building. She was young and smart. Her job was to keep contact with Earth and watch for any ships coming to the system. Most days were quiet. She spent her time reading messages from other colonies and sending reports back to Earth. Amy's equipment was the best that Earth could make. She could detect ships from very far away. She could send messages across thousands of light years. But today, her screens were empty except for the usual background noise of space. The colony had grown from a small settlement to a real city. The first colonists had lived in pre-built shelters. Now there were real houses made from local stone. There were parks where children played. There were shops and restaurants and a movie theater. The farm stretched for miles beyond the city. Human plants grew next to native ones. The settlers had learned to work with nature instead of against it. The native animals were friendly and curious. Some had become pets for the children. Lisa walked through the streets after lunch. People stopped to talk with her. Mrs. Johnson wanted to discuss the new community center. Mr. Williams had ideas for improving the water system. Everyone felt free to share their thoughts with the governor. "Governor Martinez," called a voice. Lisa turned to see Tom Baker, one of the teachers. His students surrounded him, all talking at once. "The children want to know when the next supply ship is coming," Tom said with a laugh. "They hope it brings new books and games." "Next month," Lisa told the children. "And I heard there might be some surprises on board." The children cheered and ran off to play. Lisa watched them go. These children had been born on New Haven. Earth was just a story to them. This was their real home. As evening came, families gathered for dinner. The restaurants filled with people. The parks echoed with laughter. Couples walked hand in hand down the peaceful streets. It was a perfect life on a perfect world. Amy was still at her post in the communications center. She liked the night shift. It was quiet and gave her time to think. She was reading a message from her sister on Mars when something appeared on. Her screen dotted first. She thought it was a mistake. The computer showed contacts at the edge of the system. Lots of contacts. More than she had ever seen before. Amy checked her equipment. Everything was working correctly. She looked at the screen again. The contacts were real. Ships were coming to New Haven. Hundreds of ships. She tried to send a message to the approaching fleet. Standard procedure was to welcome visitors and ask about their business. But there was no reply. The ships kept coming. Amy's hands shook as she reached for the emergency communicator. She had never used it before. It connected directly to Governor Martinez's home. "Governor," Amy said when Lisa answered, "you need to come to the communications center right away. We have visitors, lots of them." Lisa heard the fear in Amy's voice. "I'll be right there." Within minutes, Lisa, Paul, and Jake were crowding around Amy's equipment. The screen showed hundreds of dots moving toward New Haven. The ships were big, much bigger than any human vessels. "Have they responded to our messages?" Lisa asked. "No, Governor. I've tried everything. They're not talking to us." Jake studied. "The screen. Those aren't Earth ships. I've never seen anything like them." Paul was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke softly. "Maybe they're from another world. Other people like us." Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. In 50 years, New Haven had never encountered any other intelligent life. Earth had searched the galaxy for signs of other civilizations, but found nothing. Now it seemed they were no longer alone. How long until they arrive? Lisa asked. Amy checked her calculations. At their current speed, about 6 hours. Lisa made her decision. "Send a message to Captain Davis. Tell him to return immediately. Alert the Colony Council. And Amy... Yes, Governor? Keep trying to contact those ships. Tell them we welcome peaceful visitors to New Haven." But even as she said the words, Lisa felt something was wrong. Peaceful visitors didn't travel in fleets of hundreds of ships. They didn't ignore friendly messages. As she looked at the approaching armada on Amy's screen, Lisa began to fear that New Haven's days of peace were about to end. The alien ships dropped out of hyperspace like dark thunder. Amy watched her screens in horror as hundreds of massive vessels appeared around New Haven. They were unlike anything humans had ever built. Black metal hulls stretched for miles. Strange. Weapons jutted from their sides like the teeth of some terrible beast. Captain Frank Davis had returned with his small fleet just in time. His 12 ships looked like toys next to the alien armada. Frank stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the enemy vessels surrounding his world. "Captain," his communications officer said, "we're receiving a transmission." The main screen flickered to life. An alien face appeared. It had 4 eyes and skin like dark leather. When it spoke, the computer translated its words into English. "I am War Commander Vexthara of the Zephyrian Collective. You humans have spread too far into our space. This colony will be destroyed. You have 72 hours to evacuate all personnel. Any who remain will be eliminated." The transmission ended. Frank tried to respond, but the aliens had cut the connection. He immediately contacted Governor Martinez. "Governor, did you hear that?" "Yes, Frank. How many ships do they have?" Frank checked his sensors. "Over 400. They're spread throughout the system. We can't fight them all." In the government building, Lisa gathered the Colony Council in the emergency meeting room. The 12 council members looked scared but determined. These were the people who had built New Haven with their own hands. They would not give up without a fight. "The alien commander is giving us 3 days to leave," Lisa said. But where can we go? We have transport ships for maybe 50,000 people. The rest of our population has no way to escape. Dr. Paul Bennett stood up. Even if we could evacuate everyone, this is our home. We've lived here for 50 years. We've raised our children here. Some of us will die here rather than run away. Many council members nodded in agreement. Jake Morrison spoke next. I've been reviewing our defenses. The colony has underground bunkers that can protect people from bombing. Our shield generators might hold for a while. It's not much, but it's something. Lisa felt the weight of 2 million lives on her shoulders. These people trusted her to keep them safe. But how could 12 small ships and some underground shelters stop an alien armada? We need to contact Earth, she decided. Even if they can't help us now, they need to know what's happening here. Amy worked frantically in the communications center. She sent message after message toward Earth, but the signals would take months to arrive. The colony was alone. Time moved slowly over the next 2 days. People packed their most important belongings. Parents held their children close. Some families managed to get on the transport ships that would try to escape, but most had nowhere to go. Jake organized the colony's defense. Citizens who had military training took positions at important buildings. Others helped move supplies to the underground shelters. Everyone worked together, just as they had when building the colony. Dr. Bennett prepared the medical centers for what was coming. He knew his hospitals would not be enough, but he would try to save as many lives as possible. His staff volunteered to stay with him, even though they knew the dangers. Captain Davis positioned his ships between the alien fleet and New Haven. His crews were ready to fight, though they all knew they would not survive. They would buy time for the people on the ground. On the morning of the 3rd day, War Commander Vextara sent another message. Your time is finished. Any humans remaining on this world will be destroyed. We begin our attack in 1 hour. Lisa stood in the main square of the colony. Thousands of people had gathered to hear her final words. Children clung to their parents. Old people who remembered Earth sat in wheelchairs. Young adults who had never known another home stood with tears in their eyes. My friends, Lisa said, her voice carrying over the crowd. Today we face an enemy that wants to destroy everything we have built. They think we are weak because we chose peace over war. They think we will run away because we are afraid. They are wrong. The crowd cheered. Lisa continued. We came to this world to build something beautiful. We have lived in harmony with nature. We have raised healthy children. We have created a society based on cooperation and love. That is not weakness. That is strength. More cheers echoed across the square. Some of us will survive what comes next. Those who do must carry our story back to Earth. They must tell our people what happened here. They must make sure New Haven is not forgotten. As Lisa finished speaking, the alien ships opened fire. The sky filled with bright plasma beams. Captain Davis's fleet fought bravely, but they were outnumbered 30-1. His ships exploded one by one, each taking a few alien vessels with them. Frank's flagship was the last to fall. His final transmission to the colony was simple. It was an honor to serve New Haven. The alien bombardment turned the colony's shields into balls of fire. The protective barriers held for 20 minutes before failing. Then the plasma beams reached the ground. Buildings that had stood for 50 years melted like ice in the sun. The beautiful gardens burned. The schools where children had learned about Earth's history became smoking ruins. The hospitals where Dr. Bennett worked to save lives collapsed into rubble. Jake Morrison led the defense from the underground command center. He watched on his screens as the surface world died. His security teams fought the alien troops that landed in the ruins. But there were too many enemies. All units, fall back to the deep shelters, Jake ordered. Save who you can. Dr. Bennett worked in an underground medical station. People injured in the bombing were brought to him constantly. He operated without rest, trying to save lives while the world ended above his head. Amy stayed at her communications post until the very end. She kept sending messages to Earth, describing what was happening. Her final transmission was brief. New Haven is falling. The aliens are killing everyone. Tell Earth we tried to be peaceful. Tell them to be ready for war. The bombing continued for 6 hours. When it was over, nothing remained of the colony except melted metal and ash. 2 million people had called New Haven home. Most of them were dead, but some survived. In the deepest bunkers, families huddled together in the dark. Transport ships that had escaped during the first day carried refugees toward Earth. 847 people lived through the massacre. War Commander Vexthara stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking down at the destroyed world. His aide approached with a report. The human colony has been eliminated, Commander. Our troops found no significant military installations. They had only 12 small warships. Vexthara was satisfied. Good. Leave a warning beacon in orbit. Any other humans who come here will know what happens to those who enter collective space. The Zephyrian fleet departed New Haven, leaving behind only death and a message of warning. They thought they had taught humanity a lesson about power. They thought the humans would be too afraid to challenge them again. They were wrong. Lisa Martinez died in the underground command center, crushed when the ceiling collapsed. Jake Morrison fell defending civilians in the lower tunnels. Dr. Bennett worked until a plasma beam found his medical station, but Amy Stewart survived. She was found in the ruins of the communications center, badly injured but alive. When the rescue ships from Earth finally arrived months later, she was among the refugees who carried the story of New Haven's destruction back home. The aliens had made a terrible mistake. They had shown humanity that the galaxy was not a safe place. They had proven that peace was not always possible. Most importantly, they had given Earth a reason for war doubt. The survivors of New Haven would live to see humanity's answer to the massacre. They would watch as Earth built the largest war fleet in history. They would be there when 700,000 human ships set out to find the Zephyrian collective dot. The aliens thought they had ended the human threat. Instead, they had awakened something far more dangerous than they could imagine. They had turned a peaceful species into an engine of war, and that war was coming for them. The refugee ships from New Haven arrived at Earth like harbingers of doom. 3 months had passed since the colony's destruction. The 800 survivors carried with them video recordings of the massacre and Amy Stewart's final transmissions. Within hours of their arrival, the terrible news spread across every human world. President Helen Carter sat in the Oval Office of the United Earth Government, watching the footage from New Haven for the 10th time. The images of plasma beams, melting buildings and civilians running for their lives made her stomach turn. But what filled her with rage was the aliens' casual dismissal of human life. Admiral John Parker stood beside her desk. He was the supreme commander of Earth's defense forces, a tall man with gray hair and steel blue eyes. He had served in the military for 40 years, but he had never seen anything like this. Madam President, John said quietly, this was not just an attack on one colony. This was genocide. They gave the people 72 hours to evacuate 2 million civilians. They knew it was impossible. Helen nodded grimly. Have you reviewed the tactical data from Captain Davis's ships? Yes. The aliens had over 400 vessels. Our intelligence suggests they have thousands more. But that's not what worries me most. What does? John activated a holographic display showing the alien ships. They didn't use their full firepower. At first, they were playing with us, testing our defenses. This was a demonstration, not a real battle. Helen stood and walked to the window overlooking the bustling capital city. Millions of people went about their daily lives, not knowing that humanity was no longer alone in the galaxy. Soon that would change. Admiral, how long would it take to mobilize our full military capacity? John paused. He had been thinking about this question since the refugees arrived. If we convert all industrial production to military use, if we activate every reserve unit and draft civilians, 2 years, maybe 18 months. Make it 18 months. I want every human world contributing to this effort. That evening, President Carter addressed the Global Assembly. Representatives from Earth, Mars, the Jupiter colonies, and dozens of other worlds listened as she spoke. Behind her, a massive screen showed the final image from New Haven. Empty. Ruins where a thriving city had once stood. Fellow humans, Helen began. 3 months ago, we learned we are not alone in the universe. We also learned that the galaxy contains those who see our very existence as a threat. The colony of New Haven was home to 2 million peaceful civilians. They were farmers, teachers, doctors, and engineers. They were destroyed simply for being human. The assembly hall was silent. Helen continued. The aliens who committed this act call themselves the Zephyrian Collective. They believe they can intimidate humanity by murdering our children and destroying our homes. They are wrong. She gestured to the screen behind her. This image will be remembered. But it will not be the end of our story. It will be the beginning of our response. I am declaring a state of war against the Zephyrian Collective and any who support them. The assembly erupted in cheers. Representatives from every human world stood and applauded. The vote was unanimous. Humanity would go to war. General Mike Thompson took charge of military, planning from his headquarters on Mars. He was a brilliant strategist who had studied warfare for decades. Now he faced his greatest challenge: how to fight an enemy with unknown capabilities across vast distances of space. We need to know everything about these Zephyrians, he told his staff. Their technology, their numbers, their weaknesses. We can't fight what we don't understand. Intelligence teams worked around the clock to analyze the alien ships captured in Davis's recordings. Human scientists studied every detail of the enemy weapons and armor. Slowly, a picture emerged of humanity's foe. Dr. Susan Clark led the weapons research division from her laboratory in the asteroid belt. She was Earth's top expert on advanced physics and had been working on theoretical weapons for years. Now her theories would become reality. The alien shields work by deflecting energy. Beams, she explained to a gathering of military leaders. But they have a weakness. The shield generators cycle through different frequencies. If we can match those frequencies exactly, our weapons will pass right through. Dr. Clark's team developed new weapon systems designed specifically to fight the Zephyrians. Quantum torpedoes that could phase through enemy shields. Adaptive plasma cannons that changed their frequency thousands of times per second. Point defense systems that could stop incoming alien fire. But weapons were only part of the solution. Humanity needed ships to carry them. Colonel Ryan Hughes commanded Earth's Special Construction Units. His job was to oversee the largest military production effort in human history. Every shipyard in the solar system was converted to building warships. New facilities were constructed in asteroid fields and around distant moons. We're not just building a fleet, Ryan told his engineers. We're building the instrument of humanity's survival. Every ship has to be perfect. Every weapon has to work. Our people are counting on us. The work continued day and night. Automated factories produced hull plates by the thousands. Assembly robots worked without rest to put the ships together. Human workers labored alongside machines, driven by thoughts of New Haven's dead. Admiral Parker oversaw the training of new crew members. Millions of volunteers signed up to serve in the fleet. Farmers learned to operate weapon systems. Teachers became ship captains. Store clerks became fighter pilots. All of humanity united for war. But the greatest surprise came when Admiral Parker revealed Earth's secret, the sole defense fleet. For decades, hidden shipyards beyond Pluto had been building warships in complete secrecy. The public thought Earth had only a few hundred defensive vessels. In reality, there were 200,000 ships waiting in the darkness of the outer system. "We built them to defend against invasion," Parker explained to President Carter. "We never imagined we would use them for attack. But combined with new production, we can field 700,000 warships." Helen stared at the holographic display showing the massive fleet. 700,000 ships? Yes, Madam President. The largest armada in human history. Nothing like it has ever existed. The fleet grew week by week. Massive dreadnought battleships armed with planet-killing weapons. Fast attack cruisers designed for hit-and-run warfare. Carrier ships loaded with millions of fighter drones. Support vessels to keep the fleet supplied across interstellar distances. Amy Stewart recovered from her injuries and volunteered to serve in the communications division. She had seen the aliens destroy her home. Now she wanted to help humanity destroy theirs. "I know how they think," she told Admiral Parker during her interview. "I listened to their transmissions during the attack. They believe humans are weak because we prefer peace. They think we will surrender if they hurt us enough. They don't understand that they've made us stronger." Other survivors from New Haven also joined the fleet. They became symbols of why humanity fought. Their stories spread throughout the Armada, reminding everyone what they were fighting for. The industrial transformation was complete within 18 months. Every human world contributed ships, weapons, and crew members. The asteroid belts provided raw materials. The gas giant moons supplied fuel. Mars manufactured electronics. Earth coordinated everything. President Carter toured the fleet before its departure. She walked through the hangar bays of the flagship, U.E.'s Retribution. She met with crew members from every human world. Young and old, they all shared the same determination. "Admiral Parker," she said as they stood on the bridge of the massive ship, "are we ready?" John looked out at the endless rows of warships stretching beyond the horizon. "We're as ready as we can be, Madam President. The aliens started this war. We're going to finish it." The departure ceremony was broadcast to every human world. Billions of people watched as 700,000 ships powered up their engines. The fleet was so large, it took 6 hours for all ships to clear Earth orbit. President Carter's final message to the fleet was simple. "You carry with you the hopes of all humanity. You fight not just for revenge, but for the right of our species to exist among the stars. Show the galaxy what happens when peaceful people are pushed too far. Make them remember the name of New Haven." The great fleet vanished into hyperspace, carrying humanity's fury toward the Zephyrian collective. Behind them, Earth began building even more ships. If this war lasted longer than expected, there would be reinforcements. The aliens had thought they were teaching humanity a lesson about power. Instead, they had taught humanity something else, that in a dangerous galaxy, overwhelming force was the only guarantee of survival. War Commander Vex Thara would soon learn what it meant to face the full wrath of an aroused humanity. The species that had once preferred peace was coming for him with 700,000 ships and 50 years of accumulated rage. The massacre at New Haven had awakened something terrible and beautiful. Humanity united in purpose, unlimited in determination, and armed with the largest war machine the galaxy had ever seen. The human armada moved through space like a metal storm. 700,000 ships in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming under the light of distant stars. Never before had the galaxy seen such a concentration of military power. The fleet stretched across millions of miles, a river of steel and fury flowing toward enemy space. Admiral John Parker stood on the bridge of UE's Retribution, the flagship of humanity's greatest war machine. The massive dreadnought was 3 miles long and armed with enough firepower to destroy planets. Around him, his command staff monitored the thousands of ships under his direct control. "Status report," John ordered. "All fleets reporting ready." "Admiral," replied Commander Lisa Brown, his chief of operations. "We're maintaining formation and on schedule to reach the border in 6 days." The human fleet was organized into 4 massive formations, each with its own purpose and commander. Vice Admiral Kate Williams led the first attack fleet, consisting of 150,000 of humanity's fastest and most heavily armed ships. These vessels would strike first, hitting the enemy before they could respond. Kate's flagship, UES Vengeance, raced at the front of her formation. She was a veteran commander who had trained for this moment her entire career. Her ships carried the newest weapons designed specifically to counter Zephyrian technology. "All fighter squadrons report ready," her tactical officer announced. "We have 12 million drone fighters prepared for deployment." Kate nodded. The drones were one of humanity's secret advantages. Each fighter was controlled by advanced artificial intelligence and could make decisions faster than any living pilot. They would swarm the enemy like angry hornets. Behind the attack fleet came Rear Admiral Tony Miller's second heavy fleet. 200,000 massive battleships and bombardment vessels made up this formation. Their job was to destroy enemy strongholds and provide heavy fire support. Tony was a quiet man who had spent years studying alien technology captured from New Haven. His ships carried the most powerful weapons humanity had ever built. Quantum torpedoes that could phase through any known shield. Plasma cannons that burned hotter than stars. "Target analysis complete," his weapons officer reported. "We have firing solutions for 847 confirmed enemy installations across 12 star systems." The 3rd Support Fleet, commanded by Commodore Lisa Brown, followed with 100,000 ships designed to keep the Armada supplied and operational. Mobile shipyards, repair vessels, medical ships, and supply transports made up this critical formation. Medical bays are prepared for 500,000 casualties, reported Dr. Sarah Davis, the fleet's chief medical officer. "We have enough supplies to support operations for 3 years without resupply from Earth." The 4th Reserve Fleet brought up the rear with 250,000 ships under Admiral Chris Johnson. This massive formation served as both reinforcement and insurance. If the battle went badly, these ships would cover the retreat. If it went well, they would help occupy conquered territory. The journey to enemy space took 2 months. During this time, the fleet continued training and preparation. Crews practiced combat drills daily. New intelligence was analyzed and distributed. Battle plans were refined and updated. Amy Stewart worked in the communications center of the flagship. She had been promoted to senior communications officer after volunteering her knowledge of Zephyrian transmissions. Her experience at New Haven made her invaluable for understanding enemy signals. "We're picking up long-range Zephyrian communications," she reported to Admiral Parker. "They know we're coming. They're mobilizing their fleets." John studied the intelligence reports. The Zephyrians had approximately 90,000 warships spread across their territory. It seemed like a large number, but it was nothing compared to humanity's armada. "What's their response pattern?" he asked. Amy analyzed the alien. "Signals. They're concentrating their forces at Nexus Prime, their main military base. It looks like they plan to make a stand there." General Mike Thompson joined the discussion via holographic link from Earth. That's exactly what we hoped they would do. If they concentrate their forces, we can destroy them all at once. The human fleet had spent months studying Zephyrian military doctrine. The aliens believed in overwhelming local superiority. They would gather their ships in one place and try to smash any attacker with concentrated firepower. It was a strategy that had worked for them for centuries, but they had never faced an enemy. With 700,000 ships, Colonel Ryan Hughes monitored the fleet's technical systems from his engineering command ship. Every vessel in the Armada was equipped with the latest human technology, adaptive shields that changed frequency millions of times per second, advanced engines that could outrun anything the aliens possessed. All ships report full operational status, Ryan announced during the daily briefing. We're carrying enough ammunition for extended combat operations. The fleet is ready for anything they can throw at us. Dr. Susan Clark continued her weapons research from her mobile laboratory ship. Even as the fleet traveled toward battle, her team was developing new ways to kill aliens. Her latest creation was a weapon that could track enemy ships through hyperspace. If they try to run, we'll follow them, she explained to the command staff. There will be no escape from what's coming. The alien response was exactly what human intelligence had predicted. War Commander Vex Thara, the architect of New Haven's destruction, gathered the entire Zephyrian fleet at Nexus Prime. 80,000 ships arranged in defensive formations around their most important military base. The humans think they can intimidate us with numbers, Vex Thara told his commanders. They are still the same weak species we crushed at their colony. When they see our assembled might, they will turn and run. The Zephyrian commander was confident in his forces. His ships were individually more powerful than human vessels. His crews had centuries of combat experience. His weapons had destroyed dozens of worlds, but he had never fought humans, who were truly angry. As the human fleet approached the border of Zephyrian space, Admiral Parker called his final briefing. The command staffs of all 4 fleets gathered in the flagship's main conference room. The mood was serious, but determined. In 12 hours, we will engage the enemy at Nexus Prime, John announced. Intelligence confirms they have concentrated 80,000 ships for the defense. They believe this will be enough to stop us. He activated a holographic display showing the alien fleet positions. They're wrong. We outnumber them nearly 9-1. We have better technology, better training, and most importantly, we have justice on our side. The room was silent as the Admiral continued. Every person in this fleet knows why we're here. We fight for the 2.3 million civilians who died at New Haven. We fight for every human child who deserves to grow up safe from alien aggression. We fight to show the galaxy that humanity will not be intimidated. Vice Admiral Kate Williams spoke. For all the commanders, Admiral, our crews are ready. We've trained for this moment our entire careers. The aliens made a mistake when they attacked peaceful civilians. Now they'll pay the price. The final preparations began as the fleet entered Zephyrian space. Weapons were charged and targeted. Fighter squadrons prepared for launch. Medical teams stood ready to treat the wounded. Amy Stewart monitored alien communications as the 2 fleets approached each other. The Zephyrian signals carried a new tone she hadn't heard before. Behind their confident words, she detected something else. Fear. Admiral, she reported, the aliens are requesting reinforcements from other sectors. I think they're starting to realize what they're facing. John smiled grimly. Too late for that. They should have thought about reinforcements before they murdered our people. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Nexus. Prime system. Instantly, every sensor in the alien fleet detected their arrival. What the Zephyrians saw on their screens defied belief. Ships filled space from horizon to horizon. The human armada was so vast that it took their sensors several minutes just to count the contacts. As the numbers climbed higher and higher, alien. Confidence turned to shock, then to terror. War Commander Vexthara stood on his bridge, staring at the display in disbelief. How many ships do they have? Counting now, Commander, his aide replied with a shaking voice. Current count is over 600,000 and still rising. The Zephyrian fleet that had seen so mighty moments before now looked tiny against the human armada. Like a pack of wolves facing a tsunami, the aliens suddenly understood they were not the predators. In this fight, Admiral Parker opened a channel to the entire Zephyrian fleet. His message was broadcast on all frequencies, so every alien ship would hear it. I am Admiral John Parker of the United Earth Fleet. You stand accused of genocide against human civilians. You attacked a peaceful colony and murdered 2.3 million innocent people. We are here to collect payment for that debt. He paused, letting his words sink in. You have one chance to surrender unconditionally. Any ship that attempts to flee or fight will be destroyed. You have 60 seconds to decide. The channel closed. Across space, 700,000 human ships waited for the alien response. In the silence that followed, the galaxy held its breath. The 60 seconds passed in deadly silence. War Commander Vexthara stood on his bridge, surrounded by displays showing the massive human fleet. His hands shook as he realized the true scope of what his attack on New Haven had unleashed. Humans had come not with a rescue mission or a diplomatic protest, but with the largest war machine the galaxy had ever seen. Commander, his communications officer whispered, "What are your orders?" Vexthara's pride warred with his survival instinct. He was the one who had ordered New Haven's destruction. He had believed humans were weak, that a show of force would make them retreat into their small corner of space. Now he faced the consequences of that terrible miscalculation. All ships, he finally commanded, attack formation. We are Zephyrians. We do not surrender to inferior species. Admiral John Parker watched the alien fleet begin to move into battle positions. He felt no surprise at their decision. After massacring civilians, they would fight rather than face justice. He had expected this. All fleets execute Battle Plan Alpha, he ordered calmly. Vice Admiral Williams, your attack fleet will engage first. Show them what human engineering can do. Kate Williams smiled grimly from the bridge of UES. Vengeance. All ships, this is Williams. Attack formation. Launch all fighters. Let's finish what they started at New Haven. The space around the human fleet exploded with activity. 12 million drone fighters poured from carrier ships like a metallic swarm. Each fighter was controlled by advanced artificial intelligence that could react faster than any living pilot. They raced toward the alien fleet in perfect coordination. The Zephyrians opened fire first, sending massive plasma beams toward the approaching human ships. Their weapons had destroyed New Haven's defenses in minutes. They expected the same result here. Instead, the human ships activated their adaptive shields. Dr. Susan Clark's technology worked perfectly. The shields shifted frequency millions of times per second, deflecting the alien fire harmlessly into space. What should have been devastating hits became light shows. Impossible, Vexthara breathed as he watched his most powerful weapons fail to damage even a single human ship. How are they doing this? His answer came in the form of humanity's return fire. The leading human ships unleashed their quantum torpedoes. The weapons phased through Zephyrian shields as if they didn't exist, striking hull metal directly. Alien. Ships began exploding in brilliant flashes of light. The drone fighters reached the Zephyrian fleet and swarmed around the massive alien vessels like angry insects. Their small plasma cannons couldn't destroy capital ships alone, but they targeted weapons, sensors, and engine systems. Within minutes, dozens of alien ships were blinded and crippled. Rear Admiral Tony Miller brought his heavy fleet into range. All batteries, target the alien command ships. Full power. The bombardment that followed made the destruction of New Haven look like a minor skirmish. Human plasma cannons that burned hotter than stars cut through alien armor. Kinetic weapons, moving at near light speed, punched through hulls like paper. Gravity bombs created miniature black holes that swallowed enemy vessels whole. War Commander Vex Thara's flagship shuddered under the assault. His bridge crew worked frantically to keep their ship operational as human weapons tore through their defenses. "Commander, we've lost contact with 30 ships in the first wave," his aide reported. "Our weapons are having no effect on their hulls. How is this possible?" Vex Thara demanded. They were a peaceful species. They had no military tradition. Amy Stewart intercepted his transmission from her post aboard the flagship. She understood his language now and translated for Admiral Parker. "He's asking how a peaceful species became so dangerous in war," she reported. John's response was broadcast to the entire Zephyrian fleet. "You taught us. When you murdered our children, you showed us what the galaxy really is. We learned your lesson well." The battle lasted only 4 hours, but it was the most one-sided engagement in galactic history. The human fleet moved through the alien formations like a harvesting machine. Advanced weapons cut down Zephyrian ships by the hundreds. Adaptive shields made human vessels nearly invulnerable. Admiral Chris Johnson's reserve fleet didn't even need to join the fighting. The first 3 fleets destroyed the entire alien armada without assistance. By the end, space around Nexus Prime was filled with floating debris and the wreckage of 80,000 Zephyrian ships. War Commander Vex Thara's flagship was one of the last to fall. As human ships surrounded his vessel, he made a final transmission. "You may destroy us, but others will avenge our deaths. The collective has millions of ships across the galaxy." Admiral Parker's response was cold and final. "Then we'll build more fleets. Humanity has 40 billion people and the industrial capacity of hundreds of worlds. How many people do you have?" The alien commander had no answer. His ship exploded under concentrated human fire, taking with it the architect of New Haven's destruction. But the Battle of Nexus Prime was only the beginning. The human fleet spread across Zephyrian space like a plague of metal locusts. Every alien military base was located and destroyed. Every shipyard was captured or demolished. Every world that supported the war effort was occupied. The other 2 species in the Zephyrian collective surrendered rather than face humanity's wrath. They had seen what happened to those who fought the human armada. Their fleets joined the growing number of alien vessels in human prison camps. President Helen Carter arrived aboard a command ship to oversee the final phase of the war. She toured the conquered territories and met with surviving alien leaders. What she saw convinced her that humanity's response had been necessary. They had been planning to attack Earth, she told Admiral Parker after reviewing captured intelligence. New Haven was just the first step. They intended to eliminate our entire species. The war officially ended when the human fleet surrounded Zephyr Prime, the alien homeworld. Unlike the aliens at New Haven, humanity gave the civilians a real choice. Transport ships were provided for those who wanted to leave. Medical aid was offered to the injured. Food and supplies were distributed to refugees. Dr. Paul Bennett would have been proud. Even in victory, humans remembered their values. The final ceremony took place in the ruins of New Haven. The colony had been rebuilt as a memorial to the dead. Amy Stewart, now promoted to admiral, oversaw the dedication. Survivors from the original colony stood beside veterans of the Great Fleet. Today we remember 2.3 million people who died for the crime of being human. Amy said to the assembled crowd, "We remember children who never grew up, parents who never saw their families again, and dreams that were cut short by alien hatred." She gestured to the memorial behind her, a crystal spire that reached toward the stars. But we also remember what came after. We remember that humanity united as never before. We remember that peaceful people, when pushed too far, can become an unstoppable force. The crowd was silent as Amy continued. The aliens thought they were teaching us a lesson about power. They were right. They taught us that in a dangerous galaxy, the only guarantee of survival is the strength to defend ourselves and our children. She paused, looking out at the faces of humans who had lived through the war. We came to the stars in peace. We were met with war. We answered with the fury of Earth itself. Let all who would threaten humanity remember, we are not victims. We are the storm. The memorial service ended with the reading of names. Every person who died at New Haven was remembered. Every soldier who fell in the war was honored. The list took 6 hours to complete, but no one left. These names would never be forgotten. In the months that followed, humanity's fleet patrolled the galaxy. The 700,000 ships that had brought war to the Zephyrians now kept peace among the stars. No species would dare threaten human colonies again. But the fleet was more than just a weapon. It was a symbol of what humanity could accomplish when united by common purpose. The industrial effort that built the Armada led to advances in technology, medicine, and engineering. Human colonies spread faster than ever before, protected by the knowledge that Earth would defend them. Amy Stewart often stood on the bridge of her flagship, looking out at the stars. She thought about the peaceful colony where she had once worked, monitoring quiet space for signs of visitors. That innocent time seemed like a dream now. The galaxy had taught humanity that peace required strength. The lesson had been learned in blood and fire, but it had been learned well. Never again would humans be caught defenseless. Never again would colonies like New Haven fall to alien aggression. The human fleet remained vigilant among the stars, 700,000 ships strong and growing. Behind them, Earth's shipyards continued their work, building the vessels that would carry humanity to every corner of the galaxy. The Zephyrians had wanted to teach humanity about power. They had succeeded beyond their wildest imagination. They had turned a peaceful species into the dominant military force in the known galaxy. They had created their own destroyers. Most importantly, they had proven that when humanity's children were threatened, there was no force in the universe that could stand against a mother's fury multiplied by 40 billion people. The galaxy had learned to fear the storm that flew under the banner of Earth, and that storm would never again allow harm to come to humanity's children among the stars.